We now have some updates about the Hive Bang Si-hyuk case. Remember, I made a video yesterday on May 28th about how, according to 한국경제, one of large Korea news media agencies, Financial Supervisory Service (FSS) is about to refer Bang Si-hyuk's case to prosecutors. Okay, and we have some extra information to cover in this video, but I just want to start by saying, we only have a few days left, 23 days left until BTS reunion, and I actually have a lot of news to cover, something to congratulate about the members of BTS, like namely RM recently won an award, right? And Jin, his album is doing great, and then so on. But is the fact that right before their comeback or reunion, all these things are happening is pretty interesting. So speaking of that, the point of this video and the previous video that I made is to make observations. I'm not trying to acquit anybody, I'm not trying to acquit Bang Si-hyuk. Like, what kind of authority do I have? Like, who am I to judge? And the case in question goes all the way back to 2019, when I was not even a shareholder, right? So there are some people writing comments like trying to make it seem like how are you trying to protect Bang Si-hyuk by saying all these things? I keep saying we'll have to see. But I am, though, making observations about the way these Korean news media agencies are reporting on this case and the timing of it, okay? Because it's quite notable, And mind you, 한국경제, the Korean economy, who first made an exclusive report last year, made the report right after New Jeans did a emergency conference, right? And then, mind you, the case in question happened back in 2019. So that makes me question, they had collected all these storylines and, made connect the dots for a few years, waited for a few years, and then decided to drop it when BTS is absent and when right after New Jeans did a conference. That was kind of interesting for me, right? And then the timing of this report, the follow-up report, of course, the material that they're trying to report on is kind of different from November of last year, right? Because in this case, they're trying to say Bang Si-hyuk essentially said to the original investors, what was the name? Legendary Capital, that they're not trying to IPO because of valuation issues, right? Whereas, in fact, they were preparing for an IPO by submitting a document. Or was it something? I'm gonna read a article anyways. So that's the matter, right? Whereas last year in November, this Korean news media agency is trying to frame it in a way that Bang Si-hyuk made tons of money, 400 billion won, through this questionable tactic, right? So the perspective is a bit different. But regardless, they're dropping this news in an interesting way and with interesting timing. So that's the type of observation that I'm trying to make, okay? Also, some of my subscribers and viewers have pointed out that, according to a YouTube channel, the report itself, the exclusive report released yesterday, is fake news. Now, that's a bit of a strong statement, and I'm going to cover it in a minute, okay? So where do we start? Let's start here. So this was the article that I read and translated for you yesterday, right? And as I said, they did indeed put this news on the front page of their physical newspaper. This is it. Why is it? Yeah, right here you go. So May 29th, Thursday, 한국경제, and then at the bottom of it says 방 Si-hyuk 하이브 상장 때 사기적 부정거래. Okay, so that's where it's located. Interestingly, though, the most noticeable news on this paper this morning for 한국경제 newspaper is HD Hyundai reaching market cap of 100 trillion Korean won. Why would they highlight that? Because 한국경제, this news media agency, is owned by a lot of different Korean conglomerates, and many of them being companies under Hyundai Group, HD Hyundai. And in Korea, this is a really interesting phenomenon, right? News media agencies being owned by super wealthy conglomerates, right? So there are different interest parties involved, right? Sometimes conflicts of interest as well. So here, 현대자동차, SK텔레콤, LG, 삼성, SDI, 삼성물산, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them are Hyundai, and they own more than 25%, so more than 30% of this news media agency. So they're trying to congratulate them by saying HD Hyundai Group has reached market cap of 100 trillion won, whereas Hive just reached that large company status, right? 대기업. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. All right. So yes, people did point out that there's something fishy about this article, and I did point out that the only source that they credit to was 업계, the industry, the investment bank industry. And in a different article released by 중앙일보, one of the major Korean media agencies, they actually contacted one of relevant personnel at FSS, Financial Supervisory Service, and said that who said nothing has been confirmed yet, right? So I did notice that gap and have pointed out in the video. Now, the next day, so today on May 29th, FSS, 금융감독원, made this announcement. So this is the official website, Korean Financial Supervisory Service, Bang Si-hyuk Hive 상장 때 사기적 부정거래. If you click this, this will show up, and if you download one of the PDF files and open it, this will show up. And this is what it says. Clarification regarding the article titled Bang Si-hyuk engaged in fraudulent trading during Hive's IPO, which was published by Korea Economic Daily, 한국경제, May 29th, 2025, early edition. So they're referring to the paper version. Okay? And it says this. Summary of the report. Korea Economic Daily reported that the Financial Supervisory Service, FSS, plans to refer Hive founder Bang Si-hyuk to the prosecution on charges of fraudulent and unfair trading. The article also stated that the FSS believes events during Hive's IPO process constitute violations under the Capital Markets Act, and that the agency intends to complete its investigation soon and notify prosecutors through a fast-track procedure. Number 2. Official response to the report. At this time, nothing has been confirmed regarding the content of the report. The Financial Supervisory Service does not comment on whether an investigation has been initiated against a specific company, nor does it disclose details of any ongoing investigation. Okay? So that's the official statement that they have made in response to this article, exclusive article that we talked about yesterday. So their statement is essentially a non-denial denial, a carefully worded response that doesn't confirm the report, but also doesn't reject its accuracy outright, right? So what does it say? Nothing has been confirmed. This implies the process may be ongoing, but no official decision has been finalized. It's saying we do not confirm whether an investigation is being conducted. Essentially, that's a standard line. Often used to avoid disrupting active inquiries or tipping off subjects. Right now, what it doesn't say is that it doesn't say the report is wrong. Right. And it doesn't refute that an internal investigation is underway. And it doesn't deny that the FSS is considering or preparing a referral to prosecutors. So what this likely means is that the FSS is trying to maintain procedural neutrality before making anything public. And they're likely conducting or concluding a review, but wants to avoid legal or political blowback until they are ready. And also they're allowing public discourse without officially adding weight to it. So you can call it strategic ambiguity, which is why I, saying that this article is fake news might not be 100% accurate. Of course, it's kind of questionable the way they did not contact the FSS or credit FSS as a source, but rather refer to the investment banking industry. But the FSS neither confirmed nor denied the report. Their official statement leaves the door open to the possibility that a referral could be underway, referral to the prosecution. But as of now, it's all speculation from unnamed sources. Okay? But once again, I'm trying to make observations because after 한국경제 reported, the Korean media have reported on the case left and right? Bang Si-hyuk at the center of attention. Although, right now, the hot potato is the election, of course. But, these Korean media agencies love him and Bang, right? But 한국경제 in particular, Korean Economic Daily, wrote multiple articles on this particular case within 24 hours. All right, and here are the headlines. Are prosecutors closing in on Bang Si-hyuk? Fraudulent dealings during Hive's IPO. So that was the exclusive article from yesterday, right? But then, below that, Bang Si-hyuk and his inner circle hit jackpot after IPO. Here's what really happened. Bang Si-hyuk 검찰 수사 임박의 하이브 휘청. Hive stumbles amid looming prosecutor probe into Bang Si-hyuk. 무기징역도 가능해. 방 Si-hyuk과 하이브의 운명은 even life imprisonment is on the table. What's next for Bang Si-hyuk and Hive? And here's a fifth one. 방 Si-hyuk의 하이브 또 논란 터졌다. 이번엔 뭐길래? Hive in hot water again over Bang Si-hyuk. What's the new scandal? 금감원 방 Si-hyuk 사기적 부정거래 혐의 조사. 하이브 4%대 약세. Financial regulator investigates Bang Si-hyuk for fraud. Hive stock falls over 4%. 방 Si-hyuk 부정거래 혐의의 하이브 주가 와르르. Hive shares plunge after Bang Si-hyuk hit with fraud allegations. 방 Si-hyuk 하이브 IPO로 4천. Okay, so this is from last year. So essentially, they wrote 7 articles within 24 hours or 12 hours. And a lot of the articles were written by same journalists. And this one talks about how the close associates share the profits. And interesting thing is, they're trying to make it seem like Hive stock price plummeted by a lot. And it seems like they were watching the stock price in real time because in this article, where it says Hive shares plunge after Bang Si-hyuk hit with fraud allegations, 와르르, that's the sound of something falling or being destroyed. It says that stock fell by 4.84%, but then here it rose back to 4%, 4.3%, and then here, where is it? It's fallen by 2.51%, right? So when the stock market closed, the actual fallen rate was 2.51%. Is it considered as a plunge? I don't know. I was kind of disappointed by, the impact that the whole news had on the stock price. Because yesterday, when the news first dropped, it fell by more than 10% in the after-hours market. But then it rose back up, right? So once again, it's just an observation. But these guys, 한국경제, are paying close attention to the stock price after they dropped this news. And they were reporting on it, the stock price in real time. Like, oh, it's falling by 8%, 4%, now 2.3%, and still calling it a plunge or stumble, right? And the way they're framing Hive as this falling company was interesting. Now, I was also kind of surprised by the fact that, the aftermarket price did not really get affected because there was new article that dropped in the afternoon of today about this case. Also reported by Choi Seok-chul, who wrote yesterday's article. It says this. 단독 경찰 방시혁 사기적 부정거래 혐의 압수수색 영장 신청. Exclusive police request search warrant for Bang Si-hyuk over suspected fraudulent trading. Remember, in yesterday's article, they said that while FSS is allegedly, or they tried to make it definite, referring Bang Si-hyuk's case to prosecution, police are making their own efforts as well, right, with their investigation. So they're reporting on that. According to this article, the police are ramping up their investigation into Hive chairman Bang Si-hyuk and allegations of fraudulent trading. In fact, they appear to be ahead of the FSS, having already gathered witness testimony and circumstantial evidence before requesting a search warrant. According to legal sources on the 29th, the Financial Crime Investigation Division of the Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency submitted a search warrant request the previous day to the Seoul Southern District Prosecutor's Office's Joint Securities Crime Investigation Unit. The warrant targets Hive and others involved in the case tied to Bang Si-hyuk's alleged fraudulent activities. The police have been investigating the deal between Bang Si-hyuk and a private equity fund PF linked to him since late last year when allegations first surfaced. This marks the second time they have applied for a warrant. That was interesting. So this is not the first time. This marks the second time they have applied for a warrant. Initial request made on April 30th, which is just last month, a month ago, was rejected in early May by prosecutors, prompting police to gather additional evidence before trying again. Under Korean law, police must go through the prosecution to conduct a search and seizure. All right, thanks for that information. The case is currently being handled by Deputy Chief Prosecutor Chun Young-woo. So they actually named the prosecutor responsible, who previously worked as legal advisor for the FSS in 2022 and returned to the prosecution last year after completing a 2-year term. So it's interesting bit of detail that they have added, right? Highlighting the fact that this is a guy who probably the one rejected police, requests last year, April 30th, right? And then he served as a legal advisor for the FSS in 2022 and returned to the prosecution last year after completing a 2-year term. Now, the police reportedly obtained evidence that Hive told existing investors it had no plans to go public while secretly preparing for an IPO, the FSS investigating the same allegations. So that's the case in question. Hive signed a contract with an external auditor for IPO purposes in November 2019 and later went public in October 2020. Based on the auditor's report, Korean law requires companies to apply for designated auditing at least 3 months before the end of the fiscal year, meaning Hive likely filed for audit approval before September 2019. So that's basically a summary of what they said yesterday. Designated audits are widely considered a key step in the IPO process. Companies must submit audited financials when applying for a preliminary listing review with the Korean exchange. So filing for an audit usually signals that an IPO is imminent. The audit application also requires supporting documents like lead manager contracts or board resolutions to prove the IPO is in motion. Despite this, it was confirmed that Hive told its existing investors around September to October 2019 that it had no plans to list. At the time, investors, including Legendary Capital, reportedly received formal replies from Hive management stating that an IPO would not be feasible due to market conditions. So that's what I said earlier, right? Police are said to have obtained testimony backing this timeline. Following that response, some investors sold their shares. Eastern Equity Partners, Eastern PE, and New Main Equity, both private equity firms, launched funds in June and November 2019, respectively, to acquire those shares. A capital markets attorney noted, filing for designated auditing is a strong indication that both the company and its majority shareholder intend to go public, adding, if they were telling investors the opposite at the same time, it's difficult to avoid the appearance of deception. All right, also written by Choi Seok-chul. So, we'll have to see, once again, what kinds of decision or what kinds of response that the prosecutors make in response to the second request made by the police for search warrant, right? So, there we go. Now, simultaneously, SBS News, which is one of the major news media agencies in Korea, made their own exclusive report saying 단독 검찰 하이브 압수수색 미공개 정보 이용 수사 exclusive prosecutors raid Hive and insider trading probe. All right, what is going on? It seems like everybody is raiding Hive. So it turns out they did a live reporting tonight, this evening, and this is what they said. So prosecutors have recently carried out search and seizure operation at Hive, Korea's large. The investigation centers on allegations that a Hive executive used non-public insider information to make an illicit profit worth hundreds of millions of won. Back in 2021, January, Big Hit Entertainment, that was what Hive was called before, predecessor, publicly announced a 70 billion won investment in YG Entertainment subsidiary YG Plus. Okay, and at the time, a financial executive at Big Hit is suspected of having prior knowledge of the investments and purchasing shares in YG Plus ahead of the announcement, profiting around 240 million won, which is around 175,000 USD from the trade, right? Now, the FSS transferred the case to the Seoul Southern District Prosecutor's Office, which has now launched a full-scale investigation to verify the insider trading allegations against the executive. And during the live reporting, they said that Hive said that executive has already left the company recently, and they acted alone. And Hive cooperated with the prosecutors accordingly, right? Okay, and that's a crime, right? You shouldn't do that. Trade with insider knowledge. That is illegal. And during the live reporting, SBS also has brought up the fact that there were some employees or executives, I don't quite remember, multiple of them, who traded with the knowledge of when BTS will announce their military enlistment, right? Because when BTS members made their announcement, the stock plummeted, right? And they sell before that. And that case went to court. And yeah, that's also wrong. But then, right after that, they also brought up 한국경제's Bang Si-hyuk case simultaneously. So trying to depict Hive as a company with a lot of problems. So that was also interesting, bringing up this case of former executive who made insider transactions with insider knowledge, and the previous case of the people who made such trades, similar trades, and then Bang Si-hyuk's case. Okay, so again, to summarize, yes, it seems like prosecutors did do a full-scale investigation about this case, but then Hive cooperated, and then that executive has already left the company. So there you go. Those were the new information. So again, I'm making observations. About 3 days ago, Korean media agencies all buzzed up, right? Buzzing about BTS return. Talked about similar things, how BTS members are coming back less than a month from now on, and then talk about their potential comeback. And only one or a couple days later, them dropping this exclusive articles targeting Bang Si-hyuk, and many of them reporting on the same case altogether. So, we're kind of seeing the pattern, right? And I thought this article was also interesting. Just the title. Just as BTS gears up for a full group comeback, Hive hit hard by Bang Si-hyuk scandal, or owner risk, they say. They have always tried, a lot of Korean media agencies have always tried to frame Bang Si-hyuk as this risk factor, the biggest risk factor. So, another observation. Okay? Yeah, and then in the second half of this article, they're talking about the stock price. Wow, they are really obsessed with Hive's stock price. How the stock fell by 8%, more than 8% at one point in the beginning of the trading hours, but then fell by only 2.51% at the end of the market. And how about this article? This is what it reads. Bang Si-hyuk's 400 billion Korean won controversy. New Jeans was a genius move versus BTS is BTS 최대학점. So Bang Si-hyuk is the biggest liability for BTS or something. So that's the title. And then it's a classic case of Korean media bringing up netizens' comments, random comments, and include them in the article. It says, as news of the investigation broke, online forums and social media lit up with comments referencing both BTS and New Jeans, Hive's top acts, especially in light of New Jeans' recent conflict with the label and the declaration to terminate their exclusive contract. Supporters of New Jeans commented, is New Jeans about to rise again? You never know. Can't wait for Minijin and New Jeans to come back. Backing New Jeans was a genius move. Rooting for New Jeans, this is karma. Some users took direct aim at Hive's previous narrative, saying they went after Minijin for a breach of trust. Huh? If they hadn't thrown New Jeans away, they would have made more than 400 billion. No. They hadn't thrown New Jeans away, they said? Like, New Jeans left themselves, right? And recently, I just had this revelation. I mean, it's not even a revelation. How, like, as a shareholder and as a New Jeans fan who used to be a New Jeans fan only a year ago or more than a year ago, it's such an unfortunate case. Like the situation we're now in, because nobody won. It's a lose-lose game, New Jeans is not doing their activities, not doing their music, and Hive lost their IP, precious IP. And I'm like, all because of that one woman? You know what I'm saying? All right, but anyways, I'm pretty sure they still got their own supporters who believe in their own thing, and that's fine. But they're still trying to say that Hive is the one who have thrown them away. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Also, it's not it. The article also added, meanwhile, BTS-related comments expressed concern over possible fallout. BTS just became Hive's not BTS. Okay, so Bang Si-hyuk became BTS' biggest liability. I think that's kind of flipped. Feels like they have lost their original spirit that created BTS. Okay, 초심, original spirit that they're talking about. Why is all this happening right before BTS finishes military service? Yeah, that's the kind of question that I would love to ask. What else? Many also criticized Bang Si-hyuk's personality. if the financial supervisor service is referring this for prosecution, there is definitely something there, one commenter wrote. He lost his focus and got involved in unnecessary deals. What do you think about that? I honestly believe that there should be a law prohibiting media agencies to use these random comments to be included in their contents. They can do that at some points, every now and then, but that's what they do all the time. And I kind of believe that that's a lazy writing, though, as a journalist. Anyways, so that's what this article from BNT News said. And then this article, talking about Bang Si-hyuk as a risk factor, is written by 조세금융신문, Tax and Finance News. And that name reminded me of the fact that Bang Si-hyuk paid 200 billion Korean won as taxes to the government after he, made such profits from IPO. So that's kind of, another interesting observation that I made. All right, so there we go. I think that's all the updates that I wanted to cover. And again, despite these exclusive reports that dropped after hours, the stock price did not really get affected. But I have to say, I'm pretty sure most of you do not even invest in HYBE. I gotta say, they might continue to drop new exclusives to affect the stock price before BTS comes back. So we have a month from now on, right? So we'll have to closely monitor how different news media agencies and different relevant institutions respond to this whole case. And HYBE has not made any official response yet, though, about this case. So we'll have to monitor that as well. All right. So there's another thing that I wanted to cover, but I guess I have to wait for that. How HYBE has launched a new office in China, right? So, yeah, I'll cover that later. All right, so let me know what you think about this, and I'm sure you have a lot to say about the whole case. And I know some of you love making connections. That's fine. I'm not gonna stop you from that, but just be cautious about what you say. And let's try to, look at the facts and then digest facts as they are while staying cautious and, having the perspective of what Korean media could do, about the whole incident. All right. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Oh. D12 and D13 and D23. We're almost there. Bye-bye.